rational enough to accept, and inspirational enough to listen to with feeling. That's what I love about this teaching. It is rational, and it is inspirational, and it touches our minds as well as our hearts. So after Dr. Holmes quit school, he went to Boston, which is a really interesting thing because Boston has proven to be one of the toughest cities in the United States to establish this teaching. Churches fail there all the time. But that's where he went. And he lived with his cousin who owned a butcher shop. So he went to work as a butcher, and he was very happy because on the same block as his cousin's butcher shop was an apothecary shop, a grocery store, a bakery, a cobbler, and a candle maker. Now to this young man who was full of questions, and he was, his mother used to call him the question mark when he was a little kid because he never stopped asking, this was the perfect environment to learn all about people and how they lived. Because all these different people were right there surrounding him. On Sundays, this was such a time of beauty. Not that now isn't, but when you look back and you just overlook anything not wonderful, and look at these beautiful things, it was the time when people strolled in the park on Sunday, all dressed up in their finery, and the men in their suits. And this was really fascinating to Dr. Holmes, because Boston was a melting pot. And so as he sat in the park, he watched all these people stroll by, and he talked to them. And he loved it. The Irish Catholic were well represented, but every Protestant faith was there as well, including the descendants of the original Pilgrims and Puritans. There were Quakers, Unitarians, agnostics, and atheists, and they all mingled with the Baptists and the Presbyterians and the Methodists and the Evangelicals. And there were East Indians, Chinese, and practicing Buddhists. They were all there. And on Sunday, they were all strolling together in the park. Now, one Sunday, being a young man, watching all the young girls go by, isn't that what young guys do? Sure. He met this girl that kind of interested him, and he thought, oh, it's Sunday, I'll have something to talk about. So he asked her about her religion. Now, fortunately, see, he was raised by a mother who refused to have any fear taught in her family. And so he was never afraid to ask anybody anything. Isn't that a wonderful way to live? Do you ever want to ask somebody something, but you're like, oh, what will they think of me if I ask them that question? He didn't care. He asked people anything he wanted to. So, he said to her, tell me about your religion. Now, we are told always, don't bring up religion or politics in a conversation, right? I think that's not, maybe we were not advised correctly. It did him well. So anyway, he asked her about his religion, and she haughtily answered, my folks practice their religion every day. We are Christian Scientists. Oh, wonder what that is. So that led him on another quest. What is this Christian Science? You see, the word science stirred his imagination because it implied asking questions, what he was really good at. So the next Sunday, he escorted her to church. And this whole new world began to open up for him. A world he'd never dreamt of before. Now, on his 8th birthday, he had discovered Ralph Waldo Emerson, which I find fascinating since we have all these adults who don't understand Emerson. But on his 8th birthday, this brilliant mind had discovered him. And in his words, I drank him in like a thirsty traveler. His writings were my lifetime friends. So between the writings of Emerson and his now meeting Mary Baker Eddy, who founded Christian Science, he began to understand that there could not be any secrets in nature. That nature was wide open for us to understand and to learn from. And he really began to realize that God did not reward one with the answers while keeping them from others. There was no secret religion. Inspiration and spirituality are open to all of us. What one person could do, everyone could do. And he began to see that no religion and no teaching held that one truth that was not available to others. None. And during this time, he found the Lyceum Bureau. Now you have to understand that in this time, in this country, there were these organized, week-long series of entertainment that traveled around the country and performed under the big tent. They would come to your city and set up the tent. And it had all kinds of entertainment. They had bands and bell ringers. Hey, bell ringers. It was a big then. Magicians and comedians. But the main attraction was the lecturer. They didn't have the ability to travel up to Los Angeles and go to see someone of interest. They waited for the tent to come to their city. And so the lecturer was someone that really sparked their imagination and opened their mind and brought them all these ideas from the world that they never traveled into. And he decided that he was going to do that. So he decided to go to the #1 school in the country, the Leland Powers School of the Spoken Word. This was right up his alley. He loved to talk. And so he was introduced to all these interesting people who not only answered his questions, but they stimulated more. Isn't that how it goes? The more we know, the more there is to know. The more answers we get, the more questions we find. And it keeps us moving on our spiritual path and unfolding into the greatness that we are. So after he completed this course, and I love talking about him, after he completed this course, he was booked on the circuit, so he was really happy. But it wasn't long before he got tired of that. He had bigger things to do. He didn't know it at the time, but there was this urge within him to do more, to do more. You know that urge that sparks you? That takes you off the couch and into the world because there's something for you to do? That lifts Andrea into a new song because there's spirit moving through her saying, yes, there's more for you to do, more for you to do. That sparks within each of us. He felt that. He got tired of the lecture circuit, and he decided to visit his brother Fenwick, who had now moved to Los Angeles.